Great. Well, good afternoon. I am Acting Sergeant Amy Gagnon, and I will be your moderator. Bonjour, je suis la sergente par intérim Amy Gagnon et je serai votre modératrice. Bienvenue à cette disponibilité aux médias de la Commission des services policiers d'Ottawa pour annoncer la personne choisie en tant que chef de police du service de police d'Ottawa. Welcome to this media availability hosted by the Ottawa Police Service Board to announce the new chief of police. Before proceeding to the agenda, I want to recognize that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe host nation. The peoples of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors the peoples and land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. Today, Ottawa is home to approximately 40,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Ottawa's Indigenous community is diverse, representing many nations, languages, and customs. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. Avant de passer à l'ordre du jour, je tiens à souligner qu'Ottawa fut construite sur un territoire algonquin Anishinaabe non cédé. Les peuples de la nation algonquine Anishinaabe habitent ce territoire depuis des millénaires. Leur culture et leur présence ont nourri et continuent de nourrir cette région. La Commission des services policiers d'Ottawa rend hommage à tous les peuples et les terres de la nation algonquine Anishinaabe. Aujourd'hui, environ 40 000 membres des Premières Nations, Inuits et Métis, vivent à Ottawa. La communauté autochtone d'Ottawa est diversifiée et représente de nombreuses nations, langues et coutumes. La Commission des services policiers d'Ottawa rend hommage à tous les membres des Premières Nations, aux Inuits et aux Métis, à leurs précieuses contributions passées et présentes à ce territoire. Now, when it comes to logistics for participating media, I'm going to ask that you not raise your hand in Zoom. As the moderator, I will call upon registered media to ask their question and their follow-up when the time comes. S'il vous plaît, ne levez pas la main dans Zoom pour parler. Les médias qui se sont inscrits pourront poser une question lorsqu'ils seront invités à le faire. Il est à noter que l'enregistrement audio et vidéo seront permis dans le contexte de cette disponibilité aux médias. Audio and video recordings are permitted during this media availability. We are recording this meeting and the chat function has been disabled. We can provide the Scrum's recording to interested media following the Scrum. Nous enregistrons cette discussion et les commentaires via chat ne seront pas permis. L'enregistrement sera disponible aux médias suite à la disponibilité. We are also live via the Ottawa Police YouTube channel. Chair of the Police Service Board, Eli El-Shantiri, will make some opening remarks. Mr. Chair, over to you.
You're on mute, Eli.
Yes, I just realized. Thank you very much, Amy. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Promedi. Before moving to my formal remark, I would like us all to observe a moment of silence out of respect for the police officers who tragically died in the last couple of weeks, actually. South Simcoe police officer, Constable Russell, and Northrop, and as well as Constable Yang from Burnaby, BC. So if we can have a 1 moment of silence. Thank you very much, everyone. I would like to introduce my fellow board colleague joining me today for the board's announcement of a new chief of police. The board worked together on this recruitment process over the last few months, and we felt it was important to be together for the announcement. The full board participated in the selection panel, and we were unanimously in our decision. We ran a fair, well thought out and thorough process, which included a well-attended community consultation process. I will now introduce my fellow board colleague here with me today. Please wave when I mention your name. Madam Vice Chair Suzanne Belliquet, Member Michael Doucet, Member Peter Hanschel, and Member Salim Fakurani. I want to make a few brief comments about the board's recruitment process. Under the Police Service Act, the board had the statutory obligation to recruit and appoint the chief of police and any deputy chiefs of police. We are distinct and separate body from the city council, and that is exempted and excluded from control by the city council under the Municipal Act. During a municipal election period, the board continued its work. It is not a lame duck board. It must continue to fulfill its mandate and ensure oversight and stability of Ottawa Police Service. In the current environment, the board, given its experience and knowledge, recognized the immediate need to continue to build the trust of the citizen of Ottawa in our police service. In addition, we needed to establish a leadership in the chief position. Therefore, the board concurred that it will be much more advantageous to conclude the chief recruitment process that it stated months ago, including with the benefit of diverse community engagement in the process. We felt it was unacceptable for the service or the community to be expected to wait for the next iteration of the board to confirm a permanent chief, recognizing it could take until next spring or later for this to be completed. The service has been without a permanent chief for over 8 months. We do have interim chief, and he's done a great job. But this means someone is acting in his role of deputy chief, and someone else is acting in that person's role, and so on and so forth. This is not a stability. There are several municipalities across Canada who are looking for the new chiefs of police. This board wants to do its very best to get out ahead and find the best leader for the service and for the community. I also want to highlight the fact the board follow a structured recruitment process with the expert help of an executive search firm in order to select the best candidate for the service and the community. The whole purpose behind having a structured process is to help remove bias, and we have done just that. We are confident this board and the next board, this council and the next council, this mayor and the next mayor will be able to see that we have chosen the best candidate for the role. I think it is important for both the members of the OPS and the community to understand the thought and care this board took in taking on this process during its term. It will have been irresponsible for this board not to fulfill its mandate during the tenure. Before I announce the chief select, I think it is important to recognize the hard work and dedicated leadership of interim Chief Steve Bell over the last 8 months. Interim Chief Bell has led the Ottawa Police Service through one of the most challenging moments during the convoy. He was also on the helm leading the women and men of the OPS during St. Patrick's Day, Roland Tender, and Duraco Storm, Canada Day, and a number of other complex operational matters. The board wishes to thank Interim Chief Bell, as well as the senior leadership team, for their ongoing service to the member of the Ottawa Police Service and the community at large. It is now my honor and privilege on behalf of the Ottawa Police Service Board to announce the Chief Select for the Ottawa Police Service, Mr. Eric Stubbs, currently an Assistant Commissioner and Criminal Operations Officer with the RCMP in British Columbia, will begin his duty as a Chief of Ottawa Police Service effective November 17, 2022. The board was very impressed with the Chief Select Stubbs' breadth and depth of experience in his 30 years long career with the RCMP. Chief Select Stubbs has held key leadership positions both within BC and even in Ottawa, where he was Chief Superintendent for 3 years. He has extensive experience managing and overseeing substantial budgets at municipal, provincial, and federal level. He has successfully led teams through a state of emergency and high-profile protests. He is well versed in government relations and has been proactive involved with First Nation leaders in effort toward reconciliation. However, what impressed the board most about Chief Select Stubbs, in addition to his knowledge and experience, this ability to connect with people. We are confident he will earn the trust, confidence, and the heart of members of the Ottawa Police Service, as well as the City of Ottawa community. Despite having not lived in Ottawa for the past 5 years, Chief Select Stubbs demonstrated to the board a thoughtful strategic vision for OPS that takes into account the major challenge facing the OPS, the community, and his successful leadership of both. I know that Chief Select Stubbs is anxious to start his new role and meet the women and men of OPS community members and other stakeholders. On behalf of the mayor, I would also know that Mayor Watson is looking forward to meet the new chief in the coming days. Before I turn it back to our MC, I just want to note, unfortunately, Chief Select has catch COVID in the last couple of days, and he cannot travel to Ontario to be with us in person. So now I'm going to turn it over back to Sergeant Gagnon, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome Chief Select Eric Stubbs. And the microphone, the floor is all yours. La parole est à vous, si vous voulez nous adresser quelques mots.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Similar to the chair, I too would like to express my condolences to the South Simcoe Police Service in regards to the death of their 2 constables, Russell and Northrop. We experienced a similar tragedy on Tuesday here in BC when Constable Yang was killed on duty. She's from the Burnaby Detachment. You know, we all understand that policing works in a very challenging and risky environment. And the deaths of 4 Ontario police officers and now 1 in BC over a span of about 5 weeks is grim evidence of that fact. First, I would like to thank the police board and the chair, Mr. Eli L. Shantiri, for having the confidence in me to lead the incredible team at the Ottawa Police Service. It's truly an honor, and I am humbled to be the next police chief in the capital of Canada. I will say, and Mr. Chair mentioned it briefly, my family and I have lived in Ottawa. We moved to BC about 5 years ago and really enjoyed the community. And that's why we're very pleased to come back to Ottawa. Just a great community to live in. I do as well want to acknowledge Interim Chief Steve Bell, who during a significant crisis has led the OPS and the community since February of this year. He is a true leader and someone I have respected from afar for a number of months. I am disappointed not to be in Ottawa today, as the chair stated. I have avoided COVID for 2.5 years, but unfortunately Wednesday night it caught up to me, and I was unable to get on the plane on Thursday morning. So I apologize for that, but I was looking forward to meeting a number of people this week, but we'll do so when I get on the ground in mid-November. I certainly, it will be my priority to obviously meet with the senior command team, both associations, all the employees, and just start to build a positive relationship with all of them. I know that if we trust each other, if we work together, great things can be accomplished in this community. To the citizens of Ottawa, I've read about your expectations of the new police chief, and there's a long list, a couple 3 pages long, but know this, I don't take this role lightly, and the road ahead will be challenging, and I, along with the great team at OPS, we will strive to meet those expectations every day. You know, during the hiring process, which was extensive, a number of interviews, I did learn a lot on paper about the OPS. And I tell you, there is a number of excellent initiatives that they've rolled out, the creation of a number of specialized teams and extensive outreach within the community. It's truly impressive. And I am anxious to learn, more about the service and how we work with the diverse communities that live in the National Capital Region. Maintenant, à propos de mon français, premièrement, je dois travailler avec un tuteur pendant quelques mois afin d'avoir la capacité de parler avec le public et les médias. Après cela, j'ai hâte de parler directement avec notre population francophone. Je suis honoré de revenir à Ottawa en tant que chef de la police. Et j'ai hâte de travailler avec vous tous dans les années à venir. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chief Select. And I turn it back now to Sergeant Gagne.
Thank you. The question period is now open. La période de questions est maintenant ouverte. I'm going to ask that you address your question to the chair, El Shantiri, or the chief select, Stubbs. Okay, so when I name you, you will be asked to unmute your microphone, and then you can ask one question and one follow-up. Le média qui est annoncé est prié de poser une question et d'ouvrir son micro afin de poser sa question et sa question de suivi. We will start with CBC Ottawa, Dan Takema. Dan, it's all yours.
Hey there, Chief-elect Stubbs, or Chief Select, excuse me. I'll start with you if you don't mind. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on the news in the National Capital Region the past couple of weeks, but you're coming in somewhat of a controversial fashion and at somewhat of a controversial time, especially as this inquiry into the use of the Emergencies Act is going on. How are you feeling about that as a start?
Well, I have been looking at the commission and what they're looking at for sure, and obviously it is a time where the OPS is being scrutinized for what they did or didn't do. But I obviously every time you start a new job, and I've been a police chief in 3 locations and different there's always challenges when you start at a location. There's always things you have to overcome, and this is one of them where. Depending, I don't know what the results are going to be of the commission, so I don't want to speculate or really comment too much about it as it is ongoing. But whenever you start a job, there's lots of work to do. You have to, you have to build relationships. There's always something that that might be, challenging to overcome. So we'll do that.
Thanks for that. And just to follow up, there's also been some concern raised about this announcement happening just days before the municipal election being held, and a lot of talk about the need to rebuild trust, both because of the timing of this announcement and what's been revealed through the inquiry. So how are you going to get past this kind of dysfunctional time, this dysfunctional start, and how are you going to rebuild community trust?
Well, very simply, when I start, I'll have a number of priorities. And, internally within the OPS, as I mentioned in my statement, it is going to be, my first week will be very aggressive in terms of setting meetings with a number of people internally so I can, begin to build those positive relationships internally, understand the service more, understand the team that we have there. And just start building that. And that's similar to the external relationships. I can tell you this, I enjoy getting out into the community and meeting people, diverse communities, NGOs, different levels of government, and getting to know. I don't pretend to know everything about Ottawa. I need to hear it from people, and the best way to do that is to go out and meet them. And I'll certainly be out there a lot.
Thank you, Dan. We are now going to move on to City News. Jason White. So Jason, you can go ahead. You have one question and one follow-up. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. I think your mic is unmuted. You should be good.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think I had the wrong audio input selected. Sorry about that. Eli, my question is for you. Why are you not concerned about the optics of this and whether this will affect the new chief in his role? We've heard from the chief select about the current time and climate, but I'm interested in your thoughts. I know you've explained why the board is justified, but there's also the optics factor and the way this can affect interpersonal relationships at City Hall.
Thank you, Jason, for your question. First, I have to say this wasn't a rush at all. The board voted unanimously back in July to continue with the recruitment of a new chief of police. When we made the decision to continue to post, we really worked very hard. We were hoping we can get it done before, a few days before the election. That was our goal. But because we didn't want to rush, we took our time. We make sure we met with as many candidates. The board was comfortable, and we met once, we met twice, we met 3 times to make sure all we're all on the same page. And look, timing. We as a police service board, we're not a limited up like the council of the city of Ottawa. We have our duty created by the Police Service Act. So therefore, we're still working, and our last job as a current board, or as for me, the current board will continue on till the next board appointed by the city of Ottawa. But my job will be done on November 15th. That's when the mayor-elect, if they or he or she choose to take their position on the police board, I will be out of my position. So there was no rush. There was very well thought process. It took a little bit longer, but we want to get it right, and that's why we took our time to make sure it get done properly. And we had consent. We have quite a bit of community consultation. We hired an agency who can reach out to the diverse community, and I believe we heard from over 1,500 people, whether it's through survey or personal communication. So that took us a little bit of time, I must say, Jason, but we're here today. Thank you.
Thank you. So my follow-up question, you mentioned, there was no rush. So why is the board announcing this today? This is the final business day before Ottawa's municipal election. Why is this the day to make this announcement?
Well, I mean, if it's not today, it's going to be the day or 2 days after the election. And if you, Jason, were in a press conference, you will ask me the same thing. Why are you making a decision a day or 2 days after the election? So I'm not sure really when will be the right date where you don't get asked this question. I believe the board worked so hard from July 25th till yesterday, nonstop, to get to that point where we are. And again, that's
Thank you, Jason. We are now going to go to CTV Ottawa. Jérémy Charon. Jeremy, you can go ahead. You have one question and one follow-up. You're going to have to unmute your mic, Jeremy.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yep, you're good to go.
So Chief Select, a lot of people during the convoy felt abandoned by police at the worst time. What will you do to repair the damage done to the Ottawa Police Service's reputation?
Thank you for the question. You know, the convoy protest obviously was a significant event for Ottawa, for the Ottawa Police Service as well. I certainly don't pretend to know the inside details and what did or didn't happen, and it would be inappropriate for me to to comment specifically on that. But obviously, some trust was lost, and regaining that trust obviously starts with internally looking at what occurred and what didn't occur, and making our processes and training, etc., better, so we're more prepared for the future. And obviously, communicating with the public about what we're doing and what our approach will be going forward.
Okay, my follow-up question, you've touched on it a little bit, but we're in the middle of an election campaign with voters heading to the polls on Monday. At least one of the candidates that has polled at the front has shown their displeasure of this hiring happening now. They don't support the fact that this is happening now. They feel it should have waited until the new council was elected. Are you concerned about that? And are you concerned in the trust or untrust you might have with the new council because of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, I don't and didn't control when the hiring process occurred. It was open. I applied and went through a rigorous process, a number of interviews to get to this point. If the new mayor and council express concerns about when it was announced, that's okay. But I certainly will look to overcome that by meeting with them and again building relationships with them, and know that I'm here for all the right reasons, to work with the great team at OPS, work with City Hall and the community to make this community safe. So I think we can overcome any negativity or angst over the process.
Thank you, Jeremy. And now we're going to go to global news. Brian Mullen. And Brian, you can go ahead, unmute, and ask your question and your follow-up. I do see we have global. Brian, I don't know if you're on the other end of global. We'll give you a chance to unmute and ask your question. If not, we'll move on to the next person. All right, we will move on to le droit. Julien Paquette. Julien, le micro est à toi. Vas-y.
Oui. Yeah, first question would be for Eli. I'm just curious to know how you felt or what are your feelings about some mayoral candidates coming out in the last few days? I understand you've explained fairly well why you felt it was the right timing to do it, and why, well, that basically you still had the authority to hire a new chief. Are you disappointed by these candidates coming out and stating that they're opposed to the board moving forward with this?
Thank you, Mr. Paquette, for the question. Really, it's not my place to comment on election campaign, mayoralty, or social media comment about this process. We had, as I said earlier, this is the police board responsibility, and we are fulfilling our responsibility with this process. Now, I'd like to clarify, because we hear it time and time again, conflict of interest. There's no such a thing, conflict of interest. If anything, we did our job as a board, as a whole board. We work weekend, we work late nights, we work morning to make sure we get to this process where we are today. So really, if that question maybe should be directed to the candidate who made those comments. But thank you, Gillian.
All right, and my follow-up would be for the chief-select. Bonjour, Monsieur Stubbs. I was glad to hear you say a few words in French. Can't wait for you to be able to say a little more. Yeah, you've mentioned some of the priorities you had for when you'll start as chief officially. Can you elaborate a little more about what these priorities are, and if you're planning to continue the work that has been done in the past few years, especially when it comes to diversity and inclusion in the police service?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, obviously, I did a lot of research, and I think, as I mentioned in my statement, I learned a lot on paper about what is going on with the OPS, but I need the reality and the update on what's going on today. But certainly, there's a number of initiatives there that, again, I see a lot of value in. You mentioned the EDI plan. That's been ongoing now. This is year 3 of that. And the schedule for that plan is to actually have an assessment of what best practices and what maybe has been learned over the first 2 years. So certainly, I want to look to continue that, expand it, make any changes as per that review might suggest, and make sure we're focusing on that. But obviously, I do have a lot of learning to do, and I'm going to take that head on, understanding operationally how our tempo and how everything lays out. There's a lot of frontline questions that I have. The specialized units, the neighborhood liaison teams, for example, looking at those, I really like that idea. Getting into the special, Ottawa is the National Capital Region is such a diverse area, and having these teams, cater to the issues within those specific communities, I think is fantastic. So there's just a whole lot that I want to do, but I do have to educate myself, take that time, learn about our team, learn about the community, and then go from there.
Great. Merci, Julien. We are now going to ask Mathieu Lapierre from the Ottawa Citizen. Matthew, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Question for the chair. Why was the decision made to hire someone from outside the service as opposed to an internal candidate?
Thank you, Matthew. Well, that's why we had a professional headhunters helping us with the process from the beginning. As you know, we've been without a chief since February, and in March we hired a search firm to help us to guide us through the process and help us with the process. And we have multiple people who apply for the job, and the successful candidate was selected unanimously by the board, and that's how the chief select was appointed to the job.
And Chair, why aren't Councillors Leeper and Curry with us today?
Well, perhaps maybe you should ask them that question. I can't speak for them. So. But some of the reason it could be because of the election, so they could be busy with the election, or I'm not sure, but I think it would be better off and ask them both. But they were with us on the process all along till today.
Thank you, Matthew. We will now move on to Radio-Canada. On a Radio-Canada Télévision et Radio-Canada Radio. On va commencer avec M. Frédéric Pépin pour Radio-Canada Télé.
Bonjour, hi everyone. Chief Select Stubbs, bonjour. Est-ce qu'on peut vous poser une question en français? Est-ce que vous vous sentez confortable à répondre à une question si on vous demande un peu de nous expliquer quelles seront vos priorités et comment vous allez un peu là, jongler avec le manque de confiance qu'il y aurait entre la population et la police présentement à Ottawa? Est-ce que vous seriez capable de répondre en français?
Merci. Je suis intéressante à répondre en français, mais comme j'ai dit avant dans le statement, j'ai besoin d'avoir quelques mois à pratiquer. So malheureusement, pas maintenant.
Okay, I appreciate the effort that you've selected. Thanks a lot. So I'm going to ask you maybe just a quick question in English regarding your past activities. We've been able to dig a little bit on Google quickly as we were announced your name here on this board. And I see that your name comes up quite often when we talk about Wet'suwet'en activities out west. I also see that your units or the groups that you were with were involved in some reporters being arrested back then. There are Aboriginal communities here in Ottawa. So maybe what are you going to do to kind of consolidate the actions that you've taken yourself in the past and your role over there, and to maybe get this approach with the community and to build a trust with this community here in Ottawa?
You know, certainly, you know, I've been in my role for 5 years as the criminal operations officer for the BCR CMP, which encompasses, it's a large role. There's 125 detachments in the province that ultimately, you know, report into me. And, you know, all the protests that have occurred in the last 5 years, COVID, but there's been a lot of resource-based ones, you know, the Coastal Gas Link with the Wet'suwet'en, Old Growth Forest, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, or Kinder Morgan as it once was. It's been very challenging similar, you know, to the Convoy Freedom. We experienced a lot of challenges managing multiple protests at one time. But you know, there's a team here that has done it a lot and have really dedicated themselves to trying to resolve these things through talking and negotiating. And we've been successful in a lot of those cases, but often we do end up having to arrest people, and some people are upset. But I can tell you this, and very firm on this statement coming, is that throughout my career, 30 years, I've worked extensively with First Nation Indigenous populations. I've personally, you know, when I've been working, I've worked in 11 separate First Nations communities when I was younger. And as I got into the more senior ranks, continued to work on a number of committees, a number of initiatives with First Nations people. Just this week, I was in Williams Lake meeting all day with First Nations on a residential school. They're looking at similar to Tecumlips. They've advanced a lot of initiatives there. I was there all day talking with them on how we can work with them to advance their project. And there's a lot of examples like that. I enjoy it, working with the Indigenous communities. I've done it a lot, and I'll continue to do so in Ottawa.
Merci Frédéric. Et now Radio-Canada Radio. Et puis, j'ai Nafi Alibert. Excuse-moi si ton nom est à l'envers, si c'est Alibert Nafi. On m'a dit que c'était Nafi. Alors, allez-y pour votre question et votre question de suivi.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Oui, ok.
Oui, on vous entend.
J'aurais aimé voir qui pourrait répondre en français à la question de savoir pourquoi c'était important de nommer un nouveau chef aujourd'hui et de ne pas attendre après les élections.
Je ne sais pas si Mme Valiquette voulait répondre en français pour donner un coup de pouce.
Thank you, Amy. Yes, I think Madam Vice Chair can answer this question.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. Comme a mentionné le président El Shantiri, notre processus à nous est indépendant. Notre commission, elle est complètement séparée et indépendante de la ville d'Ottawa. Alors, pour nous, c'était très important de commencer le processus de recrutement du nouveau chef de police. La décision s'est faite au mois de juillet, durant une réunion publique. La commission en entier, tous ses membres étaient d'accord qu'on commence justement le recrutement à ce moment-là. On a suivi un processus de longue haleine. Je peux vous dire, on a fait des consultations publiques. On a eu plus de 1500 personnes qui ont répondu à nos sondages, qui ont participé à nos réunions. On a su exactement de la façon que les gens pensaient, qu'est-ce que c'est qu'on recherchait dans un nouveau chef de police ici à Ottawa. Alors de là, avec la firme de recrutement, on est allé à travers le Canada, les États-Unis, on est allé même au niveau international pour trouver le meilleur candidat pour justement prendre la relève ici à Ottawa. Merci.
Je vous remercie. Puis ma question de relance était de savoir, il y a des candidats à la mairie d'Ottawa, Catherine McKenney, qui, elle, aurait préféré que la commission de services policiers d'Ottawa fasse seulement une recommandation pour le nouveau chef au conseil municipal qui sera élu. Cette personne pense que ça aurait permis justement de mieux regagner la confiance du public. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? Qu'est-ce que vous avez à répondre à ça?
Alors, c'est l'opinion de Catherine McKenney de dire ce qu'elle a dit, de penser comme elle pense. Mais comme je vous ai dit tout à l'heure, nous sommes une commission qui suive l'acte provincial des services de police en Ontario. On a fait exactement ce qu'on doit faire. C'était notre responsabilité à nous de faire la recherche du recrutement du nouveau chef de police. Alors, c'est ce qu'on a fait. Et puis aujourd'hui, nous sommes très, très fiers de vous présenter Eric Stubbs. Merci.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Nafi. Alors, on va maintenant à TVA, Ottawa-Gatineau. Et puis, nous avons Elisabeth Dubé qui est avec nous. Alors, Elisabeth, vous avez une question de relance. Merci.
Oui, bonjour, est-ce qu'on m'entend bien? Ma première question va être pour Madame Valiquette, si c'est possible de répondre en français, en fait, aux raisons là, qui vous ont poussé à choisir le monsieur Stump comme nouveau chef de police et également pourquoi est-ce que vous considérez qu'il va être en mesure de regagner la confiance de la population également?
Alors, je peux vous dire, merci beaucoup Elisabeth pour votre question. Je peux vous dire pour commencer, la raison numéro 1 pour laquelle on a choisi Eric Stubbs, c'est pas à part de ses connaissances et de son expérience, c'est sa capacité à communiquer avec les gens. Et puis, nous sommes certains qu'il saura gagner la confiance et les cœurs du personnel du service de police d'Ottawa ainsi que de la communauté d'Ottawa. Alors ça, c'est une des raisons primordiales pour laquelle on a fait le choix de M. Stubbs. Je peux aussi vous dire qu'il a accumulé une vaste et profonde expérience le long de ses 30 années de carrière à la GRC. Il a occupé des postes clés de leadership tant en Colombie-Britannique qu'ici même à Ottawa, où il a été surintendant en chef pendant 3 ans. Alors ça dit beaucoup. M. Stubbs connaît la ville. Je peux aussi vous dire qu'il a géré et surveillé avec succès des budgets importants aux échelles municipales, provinciales et fédérales. Il a dirigé des équipes lors d'urgences et de manifestations très médiatisées et connaît bien les relations gouvernementales. Il a aussi participé de façon proactive à des collaborations avec des dirigeants des Premières Nations et à des efforts de réconciliation. Le chef choisi Stubbs sera un excellent et attentif leader d'après nous, tant pour les services de police que de la communauté en général. Merci.
Merci, Madame Valiquette. My second question is for Chief Select. So there's been an increase of gang-related crime, and there's been over 50 shootings in Ottawa since the beginning of the year. How are you going to address this situation?
Thank you for the question. Excuse me. You know, similar to Ottawa, here in the Lower Mainland in BC, we also have had sort of an outbreak of the gang war, very similar, increased shootings, increased homicides. To address that problem, it is a priority that agencies work together to ensure intelligence is shared and specific targets are identified and investigated that are causing the conflict. But there is no doubt that in order to be successful in disrupting organized crime and gang conflicts, we have to work with all the agencies that are available. It's cross-jurisdictional. There is no doubt that is going on in Ottawa as well, and that would be a priority.
Okay. Merci. Thank you, Elizabeth. We now go to Canadian Press. Nujud Al-Malez. Go ahead. You have your question and your follow-up.
Hi. My first question is for the Chief Select. I'm sure you're aware that Ottawa residents have very strong feelings about their experience with the convoy and dissatisfaction with how Ottawa police handled it. So I'm wondering, I understand that you don't know all the details of how things were operating within the police, but from a policing perspective, as someone who is in the RCMP, do you think the convoy situation was held appropriately by the police? And can you commit right now to Ottawa residents that as chief of police, if something like that happens again, that you would ensure things are done differently?
Well, again, one of the things that'll be my priority when I start is, to dig a little bit deeper internally on what occurred or what didn't occur, and just understand the perspective internally. And of course, the results of that commission will also be interesting, to also consider. But in terms of commitment, obviously, we learn all the time, and I can tell you, I mentioned in my the last question, I've dealt with a lot of protests in my career, and particularly in the last 5 years. I can tell you every single major event that we have where enforcement is contemplated, we learn. Perfection cannot be expected, but we do. We debrief, we learn, and we apply what we've learned going forward. So I think very similarly to this protest in Ottawa, the OPS will learn, and going forward be better, just like my teams have been in BC.
Thank you. And my follow-up question is also for the Chief Select. In the last few years, I'm sure also you're very aware that there have been a lot of conversations about the relationship between police and communities. And there's been a lot of demands from the public for asking for better from police. I'm wondering, again, being in the RCMP, how has your perspective on policing shifted, if it has shifted at all, in the last few years?
Well, it certainly is not. The environment we're working in is not the same that it was 5 years ago. If you look at the defund police movement, you look at the COVID, it's more complex. Cryptocurrency, systemic racism, the list goes on. It is a different world than it was 5 years ago. And like everybody else, civilians, businesses, police, we have to adapt to a new environment. If we don't, we won't have success. So certainly, when the criticism specifically that might be leveled against police or the OPS, you have to listen, certainly, and understand that perspective, that what at X group or whatever that population is critical. listen and see if you can be better. And again, I'm impressed with what the Ottawa Police Service has rolled out, a number of their initiatives. I don't know the state or status of many of them, so that's something that I want to find more about when I start, so we can either retool or continue with some of the great work they're already doing.
Thank you. We will now go to CTV National, Mackenzie Gray. Mackenzie, go ahead. You have one question and one follow-up.
Hi there. My first question is for Mr. Elshantiri. Sir, it's been 248 days since Peter Slowly resigned, and your board has waited until literally the last business day before an election to appoint someone. I understand why you have the technical authority to appoint someone, but do you think this board has the moral authority to appoint a new chief a few days before an election?
Well, let me begin by throughout the process. I'm not going to comment on our previous chief, but I mean, from the get-go, we need to start the process, and we said we're gonna hire our new chief, and we work together as a board, as I said earlier, from July till today to make the announcement. So really, Mackenzie, it's not a rush process, and I think this process was very independent from any political pressure, and as a board, unanimously we came forward, and we are moving forward together as well.
My second question is for Mr. Stubbs. Mr. Stubbs, it's no surprise to you that trust in police in Ottawa is very low because of how they handled themselves during the convoy. And there is a significant portion of the city that's not happy about the timing of your appointment because it is so close to the election. Do you think that the Ottawa Police Services Board has hung you out to dry when it comes to public trust in the city because of the timing of your appointment?
When it comes to trust in the community, I apologize. When it comes to trust in the community, the way I see it is I have to earn that trust regardless, whether I'm appointed 3 months ago or in 3 months. I have to internally and externally. One meeting does not gain trust. One action does not gain trust. You have to, over many months, you build that trust and that credibility. You work with your team as a team to achieve the goals. So, if there's a negativity or a negative air initially, then I'll work hard to overcome that by, consistently meeting with the people I need to meet with, and they'll see that the intentions are good, and I'm looking out for the best of the community and the communities in Ottawa.
Thank you, Mackenzie. We will now go to TFO, Pascal Vachon. Pascal, c'est une question de relance. C'est à ton tour. Alors, si tu veux poser ta question, tu peux allumer ton micro. Sinon, on va passer à la prochaine personne. All right, we will go for our last media and reporter for today, and that'll be Globe and Mail, Ian Bailey. Ian, if you're still on the line, you can go next. And actually, it looks like Ian has left us. So that ends our media availability for today. I want to thank everyone for their participation. Alors, ceci termine la disponibilité des médias pour aujourd'hui. On vous remercie pour votre participation. Any follow-up media inquiries can be directed directly to the Ottawa Police Service Board. Alors, toute demande de médias suivant cette rencontre peut être dirigée directement à la commission. Alors, merci. Thank you. And we're going to welcome our Chief Select. Yes, go ahead, Chair.
I just want to say, first of all, congratulations to the Chief Select. You managed very well, even with the COVID. You did well answering the question, and also to you, Sergeant Gagnon. Thank you very much for your expertise in moderating this very important announcement. So merci beaucoup, and thank you everyone, and thanks to all my colleagues for participating in today's announcement. Thank you very much. And Chief, I don't know if you want to say something before we lose the connection of Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I want to thank the board for the consideration to have me as the next police chief. Again, it's an honor. I'm humbled and very much looking forward to hitting the ground here on November 17th and starting up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and merci beaucoup, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And this will conclude our afternoon. Merci.